the big focus today remains the Supreme Court's verdict upholding the government's decision to abrogate Article 370, which has bestowed special status on the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, and said the Supreme Court has said that steps should be taken to conduct elections in the Assembly by 30th of September next year. And for that, we are being joined by a panel of our esteemed guests. Right now, I have with me Mr. Ramesh Raina, who is an activist, and also Deshratan Nigam, who is a political analyst, and also Mr. Amitabh Sinha, senior, is a lawyer from Supreme Court of India. To you first, Mr. Sinha, we were just discussing about how the Muftis and Abdullahs have been reacting, and Omar Abdullah says that, we'll take the fight politically now. We do not know what the future holds for these families in Jammu and Kashmir. But the fact that Supreme Court has made it clear that by the 30th of September next year, elections should take place. How do you see that, direction, that deadline that has been put by the Supreme Court?
Thank you very much to let me speak on this particular issue, because I have a different take what the country and the government is looking at this very important and historic judgment, because it was written on the wall. Nothing new has come as far as the first part of the judgment is concerned. So the malafide is certainly not there, because it was a temporary provision in the constitution, and that insertion of 370 was malafide. Not removal of the 370 can be called by any chance malafide. So that is a very clear thing. But my point is, which is more serious, that Supreme Court sometimes, and very responsibly I am telling this fact in your esteemed channel, that Supreme Court sometimes I am feeling that they are trying to appease certain people, or they are just trying to make everybody happy. You can't please all the people all the time. See, in this second part, Supreme Court has given verdict to the Election Commission of India. They have incorporated central government executive also. So just to balance the judgment, because one part Supreme Court was saying that it is not malafide. Okay, fine, it was not malafide. But how Supreme Court can give dictum to the Election Commission of India and the government of India that by 30th of September 2024, get the election done? And again, the union territory, making the area union territory or a state, it is a prerogative of the central government, and the due process was followed. So my point is that it was not required at all, and if the Supreme Court has done such type of thing, Supreme Court should abstain. This is my point, because this area is violative, ultra vires. This particular point, so Election Commission cannot be given direction, because Election Commission of India is an apex body, a constitutional body, and it has its own problems. It has its own consideration for holding any elections. So if at all the Supreme Court have done such type of thing in the mind of the Supreme Court judges, they should have restrained themselves from giving instruction or order to the advice, suggestion that okay, try to get the election done by any time, any day. But this I think was improper, and it should be looked into that. So, and I don't know whether the affected party like the executive and the central government or the Election Commission will go to the Supreme Court for review or something like that. But my point is that such type of approach by the Supreme Court is basically lowering down the dignity of the Supreme Court. But otherwise, it is the most important judgment today, and it has sealed this controversy by vested interests, and the malafide is there from their side. I mean, that Mufti and Abdullahs. So they think that deadline has will serve their purpose. So they will try to figure out that how this can be maximum utilized in the maximum way, and so with the protest they will try to utilize it. But that is a different thing. Their bread and butter is there. Their entire political existence is there. So they are free to do that. But Supreme Court should not lend the arm of the Supreme Court to help such type of nefarious elements.
Also, the fact that Supreme Court has directed that the statehood should be restored at the earliest.
Yes, that is also.
When do you expect that, and how do you see the road ahead for that?
No, I think this is completely violative of Article 1 1-1 and 1-1, where the balance of power is very clearly defined in the Indian Constitution, and separation of power means the area is defined. So if the executive has to do something, executive will do. The judiciary has to look into the matter only on a very restricted manner of legislative and executive part of the Constitution. So if the union territory, creation of union territory or the statehood, it is directly the area of the central government or the executive, Supreme Court has nothing to do with that. Where the violation of the constitutional arrangement is there, I don't understand. This is also one part, and another, obviously, the Election Commission was given direction. So these 2 points, I am little disappointed. Otherwise, it is a very important day, historic day, and now it is completely sealed that 370 and 35A is gone.
Right. Well, thanks so much, Mr. Sinha. I know you have to leave in some time, so I'll actually take it to Mr. Deshanathan Nigam, who's also a Supreme Court lawyer. And sir, how do you react? Do you agree, first of all, with the fact that the Supreme Court is giving a deadline for the elections and Mr. Sinha's opposition to that? How do you react to it?
See, to that extent, I agree with Mr. Sinha that since it's an elected body, it was not before the Supreme Court to present its stand. Therefore, any direction to an elected constitutional body, because Election Commission decides on various facts and circumstances as to when to conduct an election. To bind an Election Commission to a particular date would be something which I do not agree. Secondly, so far as the other aspect is concerned, where the state has to be restored at the earliest, I don't think there's anything wrong out there, because the undertaking was given by the central government to the Supreme Court itself that we will restore the statehood. So it has been left to the executive and the parliament to restore the statehood. So that aspect has been left open. They have not fixed a time period, but they have fixed a time period for the elections. And so far as those 2 aspects are concerned, one I agree and one I disagree.
Right. Right, and to you, coming to you now, Mr. Ramesh, you just heard both our guests who's from the legal sphere. But how do you see this for the future of Jammu and Kashmir, especially the political future of Jammu and Kashmir?
See, Kashmir was dominated by the dynastic politics, as I said earlier. We have to see it in terms of the political agenda that these 2 dynasties were pursuing all these 70 years. And that political agenda was veering around Article 370, Article 35A, so on and so forth. Whenever there used to be elections, the main issue at play was retention of Article 370 with a greater force and a greater trust. Please be reminded, it was National Conference which asked for greater autonomy when BJP was in rule from 1996 to 2004. And that resolution was passed in the Legislative Assembly of J&K asking for greater autonomy. Therefore, their political agenda is demolished and demolished for all times to come. Now, the question is that a new generation of Kashmiris has grown, and this has grown, one, in the presence of gun culture, and another, for the past 5 years, they have seen a continuous flow of growth and development. And as I go by the argument of Mr. Omar Abdullah, he says that we are disappointed but not disheartened. So that means this Gupkar alliance, of which National Conference and PDP are the main constituents, that means there is something more in their bag. They might do something more, and what more they are going to do, what more they are going to think in terms of has yet to come and has to be seen, because their statement is very clear on this thing that we are not disheartened. And if you go by the statement made by Madam Mehbooba Mufti, she also talks on the same lines. Therefore, we have to see how much political support they get, how much support they get from the people of Kashmir. And today, as we have been seeing for the past 5 years, people of Kashmir are not interested in Article 370 whether it is retained or whether it's gone. They are interested in something which is beyond that. And what is beyond that? That is development. You see, you have to understand there are MOUs worth about 70,000 crores with different countries. And the opening of cinema halls has been there. Sports activity has increased. Kashmiris are enjoying nightlife also there. Therefore, these two parties, especially Gupkar Alliance, have to find a new political agenda based on growth and development of the Valley of Kashmir. And this political agenda is buried and buried for all times.
Absolutely, of course. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Republic TV on this big verdict that has come out today. Thanks so much, Mr. Nigam, Mr. Sinha, and also Mr. Raina for joining us here.